So here we go, Paul. Thank you for the comment, Paul. This is amazing. He's basically saying, I have been with you guys since episode 25. The shit that you guys teach works. So thank you, Paul, for your comments. RYS works, and it takes as long as it takes, sometimes 24 hours, sometimes 3 weeks, but it always works. So my question is, if I have a business ranked in the map pack for the city, it is verified in GBM. To rank in the other cities, do I have to do more RYS tags for each city, or can I just add more mind maps for the other cities inside the same stack? What do you guys think?
You want me to jump on it first, or you want Marco?
Yeah, like whatever. If you want to jump in first, Bradley, and then Marco, whatever, that's fine.
All right. Paul, it's difficult to rank in some of the adjacent cities. It's tough. It depends on the level of competition. If it's a lower competition keyword, it can be done. There's ways that you can manipulate that a bit. One would be to have locations, pages on your site or posts. It can be pages or posts on the actual money site that target those as well. Those like adjacent townships or cities, locations, whatever you want to call them. It's going to vary depending, like state by state, really. So in other words, if you want, ranking your GMB, your Google My Business page in the location, the city that it's physically located in, that's not the problem, right? That's pretty much standard stuff. That's what we all try to do. The problem is trying to rank that listing, that GMB page, in the adjacent cities. Even if they're closely adjacent, it's difficult to do, because if there's other verified Google My Business listings that are physically located in those adjacent cities, then those are going to be given priority by Google. That doesn't mean that you can't rank there, but it's going to really determine on it's going to depend on the level of competition. And again, if it's more competitive stuff, it's going to be very difficult to rank your Google My Business listing in those adjacent areas, because you're not physically located there. Lower competition, you can, and I'm going to give you some tips right now on how to do that. So number one is to have posts and or pages on your site that target those adjacent areas, right? So that are optimized for those adjacent areas. Something else that you can do, and when I say optimize for those guys, I mean like you can have posts or pages on your site that you even don't include in like the navigation menu. You want to include them in your sitemap, but you can literally have those pages to where nobody, like a visitor to your site, can't even find those pages unless they found them from search. In other words, there's not like a direct link from your navigation pages, because, and you can add them to your site if you want. But my point is, like, sometimes people don't want to do that because it creates too much confusion, whatever. My point is just having pages or posts published on your site that are optimized for those adjacent areas, each one of the individual areas that you want to target. And you can target, the content can be written. I have a VA that I trained how to do this, and she does all the work for these now. It's awesome. But she goes in and just basically does some research on each one of the individual townships and figures out like points of interest, parks, historical monuments, popular eateries and places and things like that. And it just does a brief summary of that location, like that city, that township, that municipality, and just writes a synopsis, a brief summary of that area. And it can be like 300 to 500 words. That's all it takes. And then post that within just a brief blurb about, services that your company or your lead gen site or whatever provides. So the post itself is optimized for the area, but it's just got like a little blurb about the service that you guys provide, right? And then here's the thing. You can do driving directions. So if you go to Google Maps and you type in, like if it's a service area business, which means like contractors, for example, typically serve the customers at the customer location. Then what you would do is create driving directions from the point of origin where the business is actually physically located to those municipalities or townships or cities, the other locations, the adjacent areas. So it would be single driving directions, one-way driving directions from the point of origin, the business location, to the individual cities. And then you embed those maps in that post, right? Because then basically you're telling Google, hey, we've optimized a page for this location, and we have a single map drive, one-way driving directions from where the business is located out to that area. Now, if it's a point of sale business, like a storefront where the customers come to the business location to make purchases or to transact business, then you would do it the opposite way. In other words, the driving directions would be from the township to the business location. But either way, you still embed that map. And what I found is that ends up creating some pretty strong signals. And again, it's not something that if it's a higher competitive turn, like there's a lot more competition, you're likely not going to rank in the adjacent areas. I'm just going to let you know. I've tested this many, many times over the years, and it's been difficult. If it's lower competition, just doing what I said is going to help. One other thing that you can do is in your Google My Business listing, in the when you get to add, or it's actually the Google Plus page, the brand page, where you can add the story and the introduction and the story essentially, and you can go. Remember, they got rid of in the Google Plus pages, guys. They got rid of like the links section where you can add like a whole bunch of links and stuff. They got rid of that, but they still have the story and the introduction, or the introduction and the story section, where you can add text and you can hyperlink stuff from there. And so what I would recommend is that, and you can hyperlink with keyword anchors too, by the way. And so what I would recommend is in that story area that you flesh that out and you say, we serve all the following areas. And you can literally create a bullet list and list all of the adjacent areas by keyword, by location name, and then actually link those to those corresponding pages or posts on your site that are optimized for each one of those locations. And now you've got a do follow link from a Google property that's actually linking to them, and with an embedded single one-way direction driving map embedded on there as well. So you're creating this loop of Google properties, and it just really helps to, and again, Jay, it's not something you're going to do, Paul, it's not something that you're going to do like if it's really competitive area, but if it's less competitive, you should start to see some results from that.
You got it. Marco, do you want to add something to Paul's question?
Yeah, Paul, you have to override the proximity part of the algorithm, and the way you do that is power. You can overpower the proximity factor. I mean, fuck. I never know how much I can actually say when I'm saying it. Push power to your drive stack, add power to your drive stack, and that will start to help you override the proximity factor. Send me an email. You got my email. I'll give you more. I won't give you everything in an email.